Before we start, picture a sound you almost never hear anymore. Not a ringtone, not a notification chime engineered to feel friendly. A clean, sharp beep that means one thing and one thing only. Someone needs you right now. That beep once sat at the center of modern life. It rode on belts in hospitals and boardrooms. It flickered on the hip of a teenager in a neon windbreaker. It showed up in rap lyrics, in school bands, in police reports, in fashion choices, in the quiet panic of a payphone dad. And here's the twist. The pager was supposed to be dead. We were told it would vanish the moment the smartphone arrived, yet in some of the most critical places on Earth, the pager never left. It endured because it solves a problem most modern tech forgot how to solve. Not communication in general. Delivery. Reliability. Getting one urgent message through thick walls, overloaded networks, and chaotic moments when everything else collapsed. In this video, we're going to follow that beep from its earliest ancestors to its cultural peak, then into the physics and policy that kept it alive long after the world moved on. We'll talk about the strange human systems that made early paging work, the creative decisions and standards that scaled it, the stigma that tried to bury it, and the technical reasons it still wins in the places where failure is not an option. By the end, the pager won't feel like a relic. It'll feel like a clue. A reminder that the future isn't always newer. Sometimes the future is narrower, more disciplined, and built to survive the worst day of your life. Now let's begin. Close your eyes and imagine a hospital in the middle of the 20th century, before the architecture of modern quiet. Not the kind of quiet we associate with medicine now, with controlled lighting and softened footsteps and sealed doors. This place is loud, and the loudness is not incidental. It is built into the way the building thinks. Sound travels here the way orders travel. A public address speaker cracks to life somewhere above the ceiling tiles, and a voice calls a name into every corridor at once. Dr. Miller to surgery. Dr. Miller to surgery. The words ricochet off tile and linoleum, spilling into patient rooms and waiting areas, interrupting private fear with institutional urgency. Every patient hears it. Every visitor hears it. Nurses hear it so often it becomes part of the air, a constant reminder that care is not a single conversation between a doctor and a patient, but a chaotic web of demands that never stops pulling. And when the loudspeaker is not calling, the building has other ways to summon its people. Call boards hang like wooden altars to attention, each one filled with numbered lights. A physician learns their number the way a soldier learns their badge. You scan the board as you pass, constantly. Because if you are not looking at the board, you are effectively not on call. It is a primitive interface, a human being turned into a blinking indicator. The hospital is asking for a ghost, a way to whisper directly to a person without broadcasting their name into a ward full of strangers. The problem is not simply inconvenience. In medicine, minutes can be the difference between a story that continues and one that ends. Yet the tools of communication in early hospitals are blunt. They are designed for an institution that is always louder than its individuals. They move information in one direction, from the building to the staff, and they do it with noise as collateral damage. If you want to understand why a small plastic device that beeps still exists in a world of smartphones and satellites, You have to start with this noise. You have to start with the frustration, with a system that is always public, always interruptive, always inefficient. You have to start with an environment that needs people to be reachable without being exposed. To find the pager's ancestor, you leave the hospital and go somewhere else entirely. Because the first version of this idea does not belong to medicine. It belongs to law enforcement. Detroit in 1921 is not a city of sleek coordination. It is growing too fast, industrializing at a pace that strains every civic system built for an earlier era. The police department faces a new kind of problem. Officers on foot or in patrol cars disappear the moment they leave the precinct. Once they are out in the street, the station cannot reach them with anything like speed. If an emergency erupts across town, the message moves slowly through chance and physical distance. Though the department experiments, they build a primitive radio alert system that is not yet a device clipped to a belt, but a receiver bolted into a vehicle. It listens for a specific signal. When the dispatcher sends it, a light flashes on the dashboard. It does not deliver the message itself. It only delivers a prompt, an instruction disguised as a signal. Go find a public telephone and call the station. This is the core logic that will define paging for decades. The signal is not the conversation. The signal is an invitation to the conversation. It is a tap on the shoulder that says, "You are needed. Now bridge the distance with the tools available." That logic is powerful because it is modest. It does not try to transmit everything. It transmits just enough to change behavior. In communication, sometimes the most valuable thing you can deliver is not content, but attention. The modern story begins in the shadow of a man who should be far more famous than he is. Alfred J. Gross, known as Al Gross, is the kind of inventor who appears at the seams of history, stitching together future industries without receiving credit equal to the magnitude of his impact. He is deeply involved in radio. He has already worked on technologies that shrink communication into portable form, including early walkie-talkies and citizen band radio. He understands something that the giants of telecommunications, obsessed with wires and switching stations, have not fully internalized. He understands that the future is not only about carrying voices, it is about carrying reachability. In 1949, Gross files a patent for a device he calls a telephone beeper. The phrasing sounds almost quaint now, like an artifact, from a world still learning how to name its inventions, but the concept is sharp. A small receiver, portable, personal, silent, until it hears a specific tone. Not a two-way radio with a bulky push-to-talk system, but an ear, an instrument, a presence. The regulatory culture of the time does not know what to do with that idea. The radio spectrum is treated as a scarce national resource, something to be allocated primarily to military needs, maritime navigation, and broadcast. The notion of a personal receiver used for private summons feels frivolous to some regulators, like an inefficient use of airwaves. The skepticism is practical and philosophical at once. Why should we allocate a frequency for a man to find his doctor? Why should the public air carry private urgency? This argues a different calculus. In his vision, time is the commodity. In medicine, the value of a second is measurable. A surgeon who can be reached sooner is not a luxury. It is a life-saving mechanism. Gross is not merely selling convenience. He is selling speed, and speed is one of the few things that reliably converts into survival. But even an idea that is morally persuasive can be mechanically hard. Early pagers are born in a technological transition zone between vacuum tubes and transistors. This matters because the pager's promise is portability, and portability is at war with weight, heat, and power consumption. Vacuum tubes are fragile glass components that generate heat and drink electricity. Batteries in this era are heavy and expensive, and they do not forgive inefficiency. To build a device that can sit in a pocket and listen for hours is to fight the physics of the day. The earliest devices are, by modern standards, absurd. Thick as a book, encased in plastic that feels industrial, not consumer-friendly. No screen, no customization, often not even a meaningful control interface. Their function is singular. Wait, listen. And when the correct tone arrives, announce it with a sound that cannot be ignored. Inside these devices, engineering becomes almost poetic. Selective calling relies on tones. A particular frequency is assigned, and components are tuned to respond to it. Early systems use mechanical and electrical methods to recognize a call. Metal reeds vibrate when a matching tone is transmitted. A circuit triggers, a beeper sounds. It is a hybrid of the mechanical and the electronic, a transitional creature. And this is where the pager's relationship with hospitals begins to feel inevitable. Hospitals are not only places of care, they are also complex logistical organisms. They are full of basements, corridors, thick walls, equipment rooms, and radiology departments lined with shielding. They are full of places where communication struggles. A technology that can penetrate and persist becomes immediately valuable. In 1950, a pivotal experiment occurs. Jewish Memorial Hospital in New York City agrees to pilot a paging system. For the first time, physicians can leave the hospital grounds and still be found. That phrase sounds simple, almost mundane, but it represents a profound shift in what professional life can be. The service is not cheap. Doctors pay a monthly fee that, in that era, signals privilege and seriousness. Coverage extends roughly 25 miles from a transmitter mounted high, often on the hospital itself. The device stays silent until it hears its own tone. When it beeps, the doctor does not receive a message. The doctor receives an instruction. Find the nearest payphone, drop a coin, call the switchboard. The payoff is immediate. Overhead pages quiet down. The building loses some of its public noise. The summons becomes private, narrow, targeted. The hospital begins to develop a new kind of rhythm, one that does not require broadcasting names into patient rooms. Doctors report a strange new sensation: freedom paired with responsibility. They can go home for dinner, see a movie, step outside the building, as long as they remain within reach of the wave. This is the first emotional paradox of mobile communication. It grants mobility while expanding obligation. A doctor can leave but cannot truly disappear. The pager is a leash made of air. The technology's success is not accidental. It relies on physics that will remain relevant long after consumer electronics evolve. Early paging systems operate on very high frequency bands and later on ultra-high frequency bands. These wavelengths are long compared to the gigahertz signals that will define later cellular networks. Longer waves are resilient. They diffract, bending around obstacles rather than demanding a clean line of sight. They penetrate building materials in ways high-frequency signals struggle to do. A hospital basement that devours a modern phone signal can still be permeable to a paging transmitter. There is also the brilliance of simplicity. Paging is typically one way. A pager does not need to transmit back. It does not need to negotiate with the network constantly, to declare its location, to request resources to maintain a bi-directional link. It is essentially a listening device. That design choice reduces power requirements dramatically. It makes long battery life possible, even with the limited battery technology of the era. It also changes the network's behavior. One-way broadcast systems scale differently than two-way systems. They are less vulnerable to congestion because they do not require a handshake from every device. At the same time, the pager's early ecosystem is intensely human. It is a mistake to imagine this as automated. The pager may be a machine, but the system behind it depends on people. Switchboard operators become the hidden nerve center of hospitals. Nurses call them. Doctors depend on them. Operators sit in rooms full of patch cables and glowing panels, and they decide which message is urgent enough to go first, which can wait, who is on call, and who is off shift. They know the staff not only as roles, but as personalities. They know who answers quickly, who takes time, who is likely to be asleep, who is likely to be angry, who is likely to need a second call. In this way, the pager does not replace the social system of the hospital. It extends it. It becomes an instrument through which the hospital's human network gains reach beyond the building. Gross, meanwhile, is not only inventing hardware. He is fighting the inertia of bureaucracy. The spectrum is regulated, and regulators are cautious. They see the air as finite, and they are reluctant to allocate it for what looks like a niche service. He must make the pager seem not like a toy for wealthy professionals, but like a public good. Over years, the regulatory environment begins to shift. Frequencies are allocated under categories like industrial services, creating a crack in the door. The pager moves from an experiment toward a commercial reality. And then a company with manufacturing power takes notice. Motorola, known at the time for car radios and communication equipment, recognizes that paging is not a novelty. It is a new industry. In 1959, Motorola releases the Pageboy, and the very act of naming matters. The technology becomes a product category. The word pager becomes fixed in the cultural vocabulary. What was once a beeper, an awkward phrase that sounds like a joke, becomes a defined object. The Pageboy represents a shift from invention to commercialization. Transistor technology is improving, making devices smaller and more reliable. Batteries last longer. The pager begins to look less like a prototype and more like something that can be issued, standardized, and scaled. In the 1960s, the pager starts to move from luxury to tool. The transistor revolution is not just a technological upgrade. It changes who can carry the device comfortably and where it can be used. Suddenly, the pager can be clipped to a belt. That belt clip aesthetic becomes iconic, a small rectangle riding at the hip, a symbol of being needed. But miniaturization is only part of the story. Signal filtering improves. Earlier devices can be fooled by stray signals, interference from taxis, police radios, and other urban radio noise. Better selectivity means that a beep becomes more trustworthy. When the device goes off, it is probably for you. That seems like a small detail until you imagine the psychological cost of false alarms in a profession where alarms already dominate daily life. For nearly 2 decades, paging remains essentially binary. It tells you nothing except that you have been summoned. This forces a culture of callback. The doctor hears the beep. The doctor finds a landline. The doctor calls a known number, often a switchboard or answering service. The human intermediary delivers the reason. Sometimes it is urgent, sometimes it is mundane. The same beep can mean a patient in crisis or a spouse reminding you about dinner. The pager becomes a device that collapses all urgency into one tone, forcing the receiver to treat every signal as potentially critical. That flattening creates stress. It also creates habits. People begin to live with a constant low-grade readiness. The pager introduces a new kind of attention economy, long before anyone has language for that. Your pocket can summon you. Your pocket can change your behavior instantly. You are no longer absent just because you are physically elsewhere. In the early 1970s, companies attempt to solve one limitation by introducing voice pagers, devices that can play a short audio message after the alert. The idea is seductive. Remove the need for a callback. Let the sender speak. But voice introduces its own problem, privacy. In a hospital hallway, a voice message can reveal patient information to anyone nearby. Even outside medicine, voice messages are hard to keep private. Sound leaks. People overhear. The pager is meant to whisper, not broadcast. And voice pagers, ironically, drag the system back toward the public loudness paging was meant to eliminate. So the industry shifts toward a different solution. If you cannot deliver voice privately, deliver text, or at least the skeleton of text. Digit. Around 1980, low-power liquid crystal displays become practical in small devices. Numeric pagers are born, and with them, an enormous shift. Now the pager can display a phone number. That single improvement rewires the entire ritual. The pager no longer merely announces that you are needed. It tells you where to call. The call back becomes targeted. It becomes efficient. This also creates a new form of language. Because the device can only show numbers, people begin to assign meanings to sequences. Emergency numbers become shorthand for urgency. Other codes become playful, intimate, or secret. A series of digits can convey affection. A number can be read upside down to form a word. It is primitive texting, a culture of compression that teaches a generation to think of the screen as a place where meaning can be. At the same time, the economics change. Paging services become cheaper as networks expand and standards develop. The pager moves beyond medicine. It appears on the belts of contractors, lawyers, real estate agents, and salespeople. The logic is the same as in hospitals, mobility paired with reachability. If you are in the field, you do not want to sit by a desk waiting for the phone to ring. The pager lets you move and still receive opportunity. By the early 1980s, the pager becomes a status symbol of busyness. It signals that your time is valuable enough that other people need access to you. This status is not only professional, it begins to become cultural. In the corporate environment of the decade, being unreachable becomes suspect, almost a sign of laziness. And the pager fits neatly into the era's obsession with productivity and performance. It is an accessory for ambition. As subscriber numbers grow, the infrastructure evolves. A single tower on a hospital roof cannot serve a city full of pagers. Paging networks adopt a technique that will become central to the technology's reputation for reliability: simulcast. Instead of handing off a signal from one tower to another, as cellular networks do, a paging network can broadcast the same message from multiple towers at the same time on the same frequency. The pager is not negotiating a connection. It is listening to the air. If one tower is blocked, another may still reach you. The system's redundancy is built in. This matters because it makes paging behave differently under stress. Cellular networks depend on two-way communication. Your phone must talk back, coordinate, confirm, maintain a session. Under heavy load, that becomes a bottleneck. Paging, as a broadcast system, can deliver the same small message to many devices without requiring individual acknowledgments. It is an architecture that scales in a different direction. It is less conversational and more declarative. A tower speaks, and thousands hear. The early 1980s also introduced a device that becomes legendary in paging history: the Motorola Bravo. In many ways, it is the pager's Model T. Not necessarily because it is the first, but because it strikes the balance between durability, battery life, and usability in a way that makes it ubiquitous. The Bravo's small top-facing screen allows quick glances. Its casing is rugged. It is designed for environments where devices are dropped, bumped, and abused. But the Bravo introduces something else that seems minor until you realize how it changes behavior: vibration. The silent alert turns paging from a public event into a private tap. Before vibration, a beep announces your importance to everyone nearby. With vibration, your pager can summon you without announcing itself to a room. That changes where pagers can exist comfortably. It lets them move into boardrooms, classrooms, and social settings with less stigma. It is a step toward the modern expectation that our devices can interrupt us quietly in a way only we understand. In this era, the pager and the payphone become unlikely partners. A pager that displays a number still requires a phone to complete the loop. Cities develop a ritual around this. A person's hip buzzes, and they suddenly veer toward the nearest public telephone. Hospital lobbies, transit hubs, and street corners with payphone banks become nodes in a human network. The pager reshapes urban movement, creating small bursts of urgency in the flow of order. It also reshapes etiquette. It becomes normal to excuse yourself from dinner because your pager went off. The device carries social permission. It implies that whatever is happening on the other end is more important than the conversation in front of you. It is an early rehearsal of a behavior that will later become controversial with smartphones. The difference is that in the pager era, the interruption is plausibly urgent. A pager does not deliver entertainment. It delivers demand. Underneath the culture, standards evolve. In early systems, Proprietary signaling languages create silos. A pager designed for one network might not work on another. That fragments the market. But as digital protocols like POXAG become adopted, interoperability improves. Data can be transmitted more consistently. Networks can support more devices. Competition increases. Prices fall. By the mid-1980s, paging is no longer confined to medicine and top-tier corporate roles. Millions subscribe. The technology becomes normalized. It is part of the background of professional life. Then it slips, almost quietly at first, into spaces where it was never intended to go, into street culture, into youth culture, into music. In the late 1980s, the pager begins to appear in contexts that unsettle its original narrative. In dense urban environments, the device becomes a symbol of activity, of being in motion, of being connected to something larger than yourself. The logic is again the same. Reachability equals power. If you can be summoned, you must have something to offer. It does not matter whether the offer is legitimate business or something in the underground economy. The pager is neutral. It is a tool. But culture is not neutral. It assigns story. The pager becomes entangled with the crack cocaine epidemic in the public imagination. The pattern is easy to narrate. A customer sends a code. The dealer calls back from a payphone. The pager helps maintain mobility and anonymity. Law enforcement notices, media notices. Soon the device itself begins to carry suspicion. Schools ban pagers. Districts frame them as tools of criminal trade. The pager, once a medical instrument, becomes in some minds a marker of danger. And yet simultaneously, the pager becomes fashionable. It is adopted as part of a utilitarian aesthetic. It appears in music videos and street photography. It becomes a prop and a symbol. That tension between stigma and style is part of what makes the pager's cultural moment so intense. It is technology becoming identity. Listen to hip-hop in the early 1990s and you hear the pager everywhere. Not as a technical object, but as a motif. It represents the anxiety of being in demand and the thrill of being contacted. It represents status, hustle, romance, secrecy. The beat becomes part of the era's soundscape, even when you cannot literally hear it in the music. You feel it as an implied interruption, a constant pull toward the next move. This is also the period when the pager begins to evolve beyond numbers. Alphanumeric pagers arrive and they change the language of the device. Now it can display words, short sentences, fragments of thought. But the transition is awkward because the user still does not have a keyboard. To send an alphanumeric message, you often call an operator. You dictate the message to a stranger in a call center, and they type it into the system. Private communication becomes temporarily mediated, filtered through another human being. It is a strange interim state, like the world inventing texting but not yet owning it fully. Flagship devices of this era, like Motorola's Advisor, become early information hubs. They can receive not only personal messages, but also news updates, stock quotes, sports scores. This is push notification culture before the phrase exists. It reveals a hunger that will later define the smartphone era. People want the world delivered to their pocket, not just personal demand. Manufacturers notice a market beyond professionals and beyond street culture, teenagers. By the mid-1990s, paging devices become cheap enough to be sold as accessories of youth independence. They come in bright colors, transparent plastics, designs that look more like toys than medical gear. A teenager with a pager can be reached by parents, can coordinate with friends, can participate in a coded social language. Pager codes become a game, a secret alphabet of numbers and inverted words. The pager teaches young users how to communicate through constraint. It teaches them that limited character space can create creativity. It teaches them the pleasure of decoding a message on a screen. By 1999, paging reaches a peak. Tens of millions of subscribers worldwide, a mature infrastructure, devices that are both functional and fashionable. It looks like a technology that is one. And yet the shadow is obvious. Cellular phones shrink. They become cheaper. They begin to offer not only voice calls, but text messaging directly, without operators. For consumers, the question becomes inevitable. Why carry a device that tells me to call someone when I can carry a device that lets me call them? Why carry a separate receiver when the phone can receive and transmit? The pager's decline in popular narrative is framed as a simple story of technological replacement. The smartphone arrives and older devices die. But the pager's story is not a simple death. It is a transformation, a narrowing, a retreat into niches where its physics and its architecture still beat newer systems. To understand that, you have to step away from culture and return to the air itself. You have to look at the physical nature of the signal. Modern cellular networks operate largely in high frequencies, often in gigahertz ranges, especially with newer generations of service. Higher frequencies allow higher data throughput. They enable streaming, video calls, large file transfers. But they pay a tax in penetration and resilience. Shorter wavelengths are absorbed more easily by certain materials. They struggle with thick concrete, steel framing, lead shielding. They are sensitive to the architecture of modern buildings. Hospitals are some of the worst environments for high-frequency signals. Radiology departments use shielding. Basements are surrounded by concrete. Mechanical rooms are metal-dense. Elevators are moving Faraday cages. It is not that cellular technology is bad. It is that it is optimized for a different trade. It is optimized for bandwidth and two-way interactivity, not for a single urgent notification punching through the deepest parts of a building. Paging frequencies, often in the very high frequency and ultra-high frequency bands, behave differently. Their longer wavelengths can bend around obstacles. They can seep into spaces where cellular signals fade. This is not nostalgia. It is geometry and physics. Then there is network design. A phone is not just receiving. It is constantly transmitting back. It negotiates with towers, performs handoffs as you move, declares its identity, requests resources. This is what makes cellular systems powerful, but also what makes them fragile under certain kinds of stress. In a disaster, the vulnerability is not always tower destruction. It is congestion. Thousands of people attempt to call and text simultaneously. The control channels become overloaded. The system, designed for many conversations, becomes overwhelmed by the demand for too many conversations at once. Paging networks networks, especially one-way broadcast networks, have a different failure profile. A page is a small burst of data. It does not require a two-way handshake. It can be broadcast to many without each receiver responding. That means, in some scenarios, the network can deliver urgent notifications even when cellular networks collapse under load. This is why, during major emergencies, stories emerge of phones failing while pagers persist. In moments when everyone tries to communicate at once, a system that does not require everyone to speak back can continue to function. It is counterintuitive. We assume two-way communication is superior because it feels richer. But richness is not the same as reliability under strain. Battery life is another overlooked factor. Smartphones are power-hungry because they do so much. Bright screens, constant radio negotiation, background processes, location services, data syncing. They are remarkable machines, but they are also fragile in prolonged outages. Without charging infrastructure, they become glass bricks within a day or two. A pager can run for weeks on a simple battery. That is partly because it is a simplex device. It listens. It does not chat. It is also because its display and processor demands are minimal. In a disaster where power is intermittent, where charging is scarce, that difference is not a convenience. It is survival. Security adds another layer. The modern world assumes that anything connected to the internet can be targeted. Smartphones have IP addresses, app ecosystems, cloud backups, notification histories, multiple points of data leakage. Even with encryption, the complexity of the environment creates surfaces for failure. For hospitals, which handle deeply sensitive information, the stakes are not theoretical. They are legal and ethical. In the United States, a key turning point arrives in 1996 with HIPAA, legislation that forces healthcare institutions to treat patient information as protected, with strict rules about how it can be shared. Suddenly, casual messaging becomes a liability. Unencrypted communication becomes not just risky, but illegal in many contexts. The smartphone world, built for consumers, is not automatically aligned with the requirements of clinical confidentiality and auditability. Paging systems evolve to meet this. Encrypted pagers and secure paging networks emerge, often using strong encryption standards. The idea is simple. Messages should be scrambled at the source and only decrypted by the intended device. The system is closed loop. It does not route through public internet infrastructure in the same way consumer messaging does. For hospital legal teams, that isolation is comforting. Fewer points of exposure, fewer unknowns. Hospitals also care about accountability. In medicine, it is not enough to send a message. You must be able to prove that it was sent when it was sent, and sometimes whether it was received. Paging systems often provide detailed logs, timestamps, delivery confirmation in two-way systems, a record that can function like a black box after a critical incident. Consumer apps may provide read receipts, but those receipts live in ecosystems that hospitals do not control. They lack the same institutional authority and standardization. In malpractice contexts, reliable logs are not a feature. They are a defense. Then there is cybersecurity resilience. Hospitals have become targets for ransomware and other attacks. A cyber attack can cripple internal email, Wi-Fi, electronic health record systems. It can turn computer screens into ransom notes. In such a scenario, smartphone-based messaging systems that depend on local networks can fail. Paging systems with independent radio infrastructure can remain functional as long as the paging terminals and transmitters have power, which hospitals often provide via generators and backups. There is also the question of physical safety. Certain hospital environments require equipment that will not spark, will not overheat, will not interfere with sensitive machines. Smartphones with high-capacity lithium batteries and complex electronics are not always suitable. Pagers, built to be low power and simpler, can be engineered to meet stricter safety requirements. The pager's very lack of features becomes a form of compliance. Economics seals the argument. Outfitting every staff member with a managed secure smartphone program is expensive, not only in devices, but in plans, management, replacement, support, and security administration. Pagers are cheap by comparison. They are durable. They can be issued broadly. They are a scalable solution for institutions that must provide coverage to thousands of employees, many of whom work in areas where phones do not reliably function. So the pager survives, but not as a mainstream consumer object. It survives as infrastructure, as a specialized tool in environments where the cost of failure is unacceptable. It becomes a lesson in specialization. For decades, technology commentary has treated the pager as an artifact waiting to die. Each new device is supposed to be the obituary. BlackBerry will kill it. The iPhone will kill it. Secure messaging apps will kill it. But the pager persists because the problem it solves is not simply communication. It is reliable notification through hostile architecture and stressed networks with minimal power, with high penetration, and with institutional audit trail. Modern systems often become hybrid. Hospitals and emergency services use layered communication. A secure smartphone app may deliver rich data and patient context. A pager may deliver the hardened alert. The same code is sent to both. If the phone receives it, good. If the phone fails, the pager is there. It is a belt and suspenders approach, not because institutions are nostalgic, but because redundancy is the language of safety. This hybrid model exposes something about our relationship with devices. We have spent decades converging functions into single objects. The smartphone is a camera, a wallet, a map, a television, a social portal, and a telephone. Convergence is convenient, but it also creates single points of failure. When one device does everything, one failure can mean everything failed. The pager represents an older philosophy that is now being rediscovered in a different form. Minimalism, single-purpose tools, dumb tech. In an era of notification overload, the pager's restraint looks almost elegant. It does not demand attention all day. It interrupts only when someone else decides the interruption matters. It is not built to entertain. It is built to summon. In some professional cultures, that restraint becomes symbolic. A pager can signal that a person is in a mode of work that is not constantly entangled with feeds and email threads. It can separate critical alerts from the noise of modern communication. Alarm fatigue is real in medicine, where constant beeping and alerts can desensitize staff. If every system demands attention, attention becomes fragmented. A separate device dedicated to urgent summons can function as a filter, preserving urgency by narrowing what gets through. Globally, paging infrastructure has also persisted in ways most people do not notice. Consumer paging services have disappeared in many countries, but the frequencies and systems often remain as part of disaster preparedness and emergency notification. Governments and agencies recognize the value of terrestrial broadcast networks that do not depend on internet connectivity. In a world where digital systems can be attacked, jammed, or overloaded, a simple broadcast network becomes an insurance policy. The pager's story, then, is not simply a timeline of devices. It is a story about how culture assigns meaning to technology, how regulation shapes what can exist, how physics quietly decides which signals survive in concrete basements, and how institutions cling to tools that work even when they look outdated. It begins with noise in a hospital corridor. It begins with overhead speakers and blinking call boards. It begins with a need to whisper into a single person's life without disturbing everyone else. It passes through police experiments in Detroit, through Ala Gross's stubborn vision, through bureaucratic resistance and engineering compromises. It becomes a luxury, then a professional tool, then a cultural icon. It becomes a symbol of hustle and danger and teenage independence, sometimes all at once. It reaches a peak at the edge of a new century and then retreats into the places where its unique strengths are still unmet. In the end, the pager is a reminder that progress is not always replacement. Sometimes progress is layering. Sometimes the newest device is not the best at every task. Sometimes the future includes older tools because they solve problems that never went away. Hospitals will keep building basements. Cities will keep pouring concrete. Disasters will keep testing networks. People will keep needing a way to be found quickly, privately, reliably, even when everything else is failing. And as long as that need exists, the logic of the beep remains. A small signal, a quiet summons. A human being reached through walls and noise and distance. Not a conversation, but an invitation to one. A tap on the shoulder delivered by the air itself. If you made it all the way here, you felt the pager's real story take shape. Not as a punchline, not as retro nostalgia, but as a case study in what our culture chooses to keep when the stakes are high. The pager survived the way certain old tools survive, not by competing on features, but by refusing to play that game at all. It remained a single-purpose instrument in a world addicted to multi-purpose everything. And in doing so, it exposed a hard truth about modern technology. Convenience is not the same thing as resilience. Bandwidth is not the same thing as reliability, and the newest device in your pocket is not automatically the best one for the basement, the blackout, the disaster, or the moment when too many people need the network at the same time. So if this story shifted the way you think about the tech you carry or the hidden systems you depend on without noticing, do me a favor. Like the video so it reaches the people who love these deep dives. Subscribe if you want more documentaries about the inventions that shaped culture in ways we barely understood at the time. And tell me in the comments what you think the pager really represents. Is it a relic we should finally retire? Or a warning label for the fragile optimism of modern connectivity? And if you know someone who works in a hospital, emergency services, or critical infrastructure, share this with them. They'll recognize parts of the story in a way the rest of us can't. Thanks for listening. And the next time you hear a beep in a place that shouldn't still have one, you'll know exactly why it's there.